Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. My friend Ellen in our cooking group on Facebook has inspired me to try yogurt at home. I love yogurt. I don't necessarily like the cheap yogurt that you buy at the store. I like the really thick, rich, strained Greek yogurt. So that's what I made. Here are the ingredients. You can pause and write them down. They won't take too long. And if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you'll click the little bell in the top right, you'll get a notice when I post new videos a couple times a week. Now let's make some yogurt. Now you don't need anything special to make yogurt. I'm using my roaster. I had to adjust it a little. Or really I just had to determine what adjustment for the temperature I needed to maintain about 100 to 110 degrees. I have a little water in the bottom of it. Now, lots of folks use their Instant Pots, and some folks just use the light in their oven. Some folks just use a blanket. So I got 110 degrees here, and I have my half-gallon milk and my Fage yogurt. You want to use a live cultured yogurt. Then I have a bowl that I know will fit in my roaster, and another bowl because I want to put some ice around the milk. So this is my first time doing this, so I may over-explain. Just forgive me if I do. I have an enameled cast iron pot here. It's a 3-quart pot, so I know it'll hold my half-gallon of milk. And our first step is to heat this up to about 180 degrees. I've done a good amount of reading on this, and some people bring it to a boil. 180 degrees is enough. I'm going to use a thermometer, but if you don't have one, I'm going to tell you how to do it without a thermometer. And you are going to want to watch this pretty closely, because if it gets up to boiling, it'll boil over on your stove and make a huge mess. 180 degrees is the temperature for scalding milk. And you can tell when milk has got to 180 because it just starts to bubble. Not boil, but bubble. So I'm up to 180 degrees. I'll turn the temperature off. If you go a little bit over, it won't hurt a thing in the world. But I do have my thermometer, so I'm watching it pretty closely. So I've poured this up into the bowl that I'm going to actually use for the rest of the process. And I want to cool it down. You can just let it on the stove and cool, but I'm going to speed it up a little bit by putting some ice around it. And you want to cool it down to 110 degrees. If you don't have a thermometer, and really you need a thermometer, but if you don't have a thermometer, just cool it down to where it doesn't burn your finger if you put it in there. You don't want it to be over 115 degrees because my understanding is that can cause problems for the cultures, the live cultures. So now it's cool down to about 110, and I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons full of this Fage yogurt, which is a live cultured yogurt, into the milk. And, after I did it, I thought, well, it might have been better if I'd put a little of the milk in a smaller container so I could make sure that the yogurt gets blended in. But I'm pretty sure the yogurt got blended in, so next time I may do that. So now all I'm going to do is whip this yogurt in until I'm sure it's blended well. And then I'm going to put this whole container over in my roaster. Now, a variation to this method could be just to pour your mixture up into the size jars you want to store it in, and just put those in the roaster. But I'm going to strain this when I'm done and then put it in jars. And if you put it directly in the jars, you'll get a thinner finished product. I'm going to put my thermometer in there again. I'll check the temperature one more time. I'm aiming for between 100 and 110, and then I'm going to bed, and we'll check this out in the morning. And lo and behold, in the morning, about 10 hours later, it's right at 100 degrees, and look at this yummy yogurt I've got here. And it looks pretty thick right now, but it's not as thick as I want it because there's a lot of whey down on the bottom. But see, if you like it this way, You could have just made it in the jars and that would have been fine. I'm going to strain this. Now, I keep little fine mesh bags for lots of things, for straining jelly, for straining lard, for straining broth. So I've always got them, but you can get some cheesecloth or muslin, whatever you need. Even the wire strainer is not thin enough, not fine enough for this. And I'm going to just spoon this over. When I get some of it out, I'll just pour the rest into this fine net mesh bag. And you can start to see that there's whey down in there. If you had stirred this up, it would be much thinner. And many folks like it that consistency. And it will firm up in the refrigerator a little bit too. But I'm going to let this drain a couple hours in the fridge, and I'll get quite a bit of whey. About 2/3 of this will be yogurt, and 1/3 or more will be whey, which I'll use in lots of different ways. You can use whey in place of water in making bread. I'll save some of it as the culture, as the starter for my next batch of yogurt. I haven't tried that before. We'll see how it works. But this is just going in the fridge just like this, and I'll come back to you after a couple hours. I will let you see this first, though. That's how much whey has already drained out of it. And it's possible if I had let this cook a little longer, I would have less whey. I might try that next time, but I'm pretty happy with this. So this is the consistency of the yogurt after 2 hours in the fridge. And I'm going to taste it, and it is so good. So let's jar it up. I'm going to put this in little 8-ounce jelly jars because I'm a canner and I have jelly jars. But you can put it in anything. I'll put about 6 ounces per jar. And I'll even them out when I get them all done. And I end up with 6 jars that are about 6 ounces apiece. And I'm leaving that space on the top because this has no flavor. And we may want to add some sugar-free preserves or your homemade jelly or whatever for flavoring. You can put a little vanilla flavoring of vanilla extract in it. Whatever it is you like in your yogurt. And this is how much whey I have left. It was about 3 cups, 1.5 pints. And I'll use that to make bread. You can use it instead of water in bread. Makes bread taste like sourdough. You can use it in lactofermation. And look, I want you to see how thick that is. This is just how I like it. With fruit, with flavoring, with a little salt as sour cream on a potato. You can use it in stroganoff. You can use it in so many things. So I'm just going to refrigerate these. And a big thank you to Ellen for showing me this process. I'll use it from now on. I'll never buy yogurt again. Hope you try this, and I hope you like it. And I hope to see you again tomorrow.